recording now.
Okay. Alright. See one first fight. Counting up here. On your Zarya high charge, this is fine right here, about 70%. So your ideal that you're wanting to maintain is usually around 60 to 65 is good. For like goats v goats. You know, you want to be higher if you can, but that's not something that you want to like waste bubbles in order to maintain that charge.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point here, you now have gone from 60 to 80 having used both bubbles. Okay, which isn't good. So you're setting up for the boop here, and then you want to go for a boop onto engage, which is good. So now that you have that boop, you need to like immediately collapse onto this if that's your goal, right? So that Ryan should be dead. I want to see your bubbles being used more on engaging with your Ryan. Oh, your ally should always be used. So you're kind of just like throwing out your ally in cooldown. So your ally should always be used in a goats v goats for when your Ryan is actively either on their Ryan or their Ryan is actively on your Ryan. Those are pretty much like the primary situations in which you want to do it. Of course, there are other ones when if you're expecting a shatter, if you're expecting, you know, grab and you want to be able to block for stun, things like that, or stun shatter combos or boops or whatever. But outside of those situations, like the overall point at which you want to use it is when he is actively swinging or taking too much damage. Okay.
Sounder's got anti, should have had bubble for. Yeah.
Exactly. So like here, right, you should have had bubble for that anti, right? Which would have probably saved this. So this is going to be pretty much the last fight. They're taking a rather slow engage, so... Okay, so you're going to engage. Managed to get off the Sombra, which is good. Alright, so do you see here kind of on this bubble usage though?
Yeah, I notice.
Yeah. So your self bubbles, like they aren't phenomenal, but I think that they're like okay for being able to block things or win things. So I mean, everyone's ability usage can always be improved, but what I mean is that your ally bubble usage, like if you're running the Zarya with this composition and you're going to be on the Zarya, then your ally bubble usage definitely does need to be a priority to fix, whereas your self bubble usage is kind of like, don't prioritize that right now.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's going to be the main thing that you're looking at addressing here. Okay. So now you can go in for however you guys are going to be wanting to do this engage here. So from your perspective here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know of this composition, knowing what they're running, how do you think is the best way to approach this to overall win, not necessarily this fight, but the point?
Grab the Lucio.
Whether or not that's winning this fight, you know?
Oh, just
it doesn't matter if it's winning this fight or not, but just in general, how are you planning to win point?
Probably shutting down the Sombra so she doesn't get hacks on her Rhine so they can overwhelm us, and probably just getting a grab on them. Like, the Lucio and Sombra out of position, I could easily get a grab on them.
Okay. So you're looking to get a grab onto the Lucio and Sombra.
But I don't.
Okay.
Also, is this ally bubble bad? Because I don't know if...
Yeah.
Okay. Is it just too early? Because
Yeah,
Sino wants bubbles like that. He says he calls for it too. Unless he didn't do it this time. I'm muted, but... He's like, okay, bubble me 3, 2, 1, and then he just wants the bubble.
Yeah, no, this was too early of a bubble. So,
right here, he's not. So, right here, right, this distance here, right, is that they've already backed.
So right? They can just back up a little more, and then the bubble runs out, and they overwhelm the Rhine.
So exactly. So that's the primary thing. Now, if for example this were a self bubble and you did that because you're expecting like EMP, right? That's fine because you're going for a bubble there, right, to try and save that shield. But outside of that, he doesn't have that right there. So let's, yeah. Okay, so they just use a grab and wait. Which is fine. You don't blow any ultimates, which is good, right? So you just let them grab, and that's fine. So you can definitely play this in the way where you're dry pushing until you build 6 ultimates, and then you all go in with that. That's a way that you can play that as well. You just have to make sure you don't waste all those ultimates in the process. But if you do that, like that's also a fine way to play last fight. Okay. So that right there, you didn't need to use an ally either.
Okay.
And even if it gets hacked right there, like the rest of the team there wasn't able to follow up, so there's nothing he can do that. Now you take this in for an engage, right? That's all good. I don't think the bomb was necessary. You could have saved it for later because you already had gotten 3 picks off. But outside of that, the rest of the old usage was good. Their EMP was shit. You countered with B, you engaged, and then got a good grab off, so that's fine. So, overall, I mean, your goats worked better than their Sombra composition, their Sombra goats composition. You just executed goats better than they did.
yeah.
So I'm gonna bring up the bubbles when I see it. So although you got energy out of this bubble, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was a good bubble, because that was primarily built off poke rather than engage, right?
Yeah.
So the ideal for your bubble, your ally bubble, is going to be not for building charge, because I know that sometimes Zarya's, you know, even high tier Zarya's, they're like, oh, you know, I just got like 40 charge off that. What do you mean it's a bad bubble? Because that's not the purpose of the bubble. It's a good side effect, but the purpose of the bubble is to absorb that damage for engage.
And then personal for energy, right?
Yeah, so I mean, the ally is for that engage or being engaged on. The self is more for energy than is the personal or the ally. But you don't really want, if you're like at about 60% charge or higher, you don't really want to bubble for charge, like explicitly for charge, unless you're going to have your bubble back for the next fight, right? So like, say if they're in their spawn, right, and they send a fire strike at you, right, that's something you can self bubble, because you're gonna have it back by the time that you actually get into an engage, right? But if they're in the thing and they just like throw a fire strike out and they're like, you know, a couple of feet from in front of you, right, and you're just gonna get 20% off of that, but you're just behind Rhine shield, right, that's not something you want to self bubble, because they're gonna engage right afterwards, and then, you know, especially if they have a shatter or something like that, that's not what you want to use it for. So yes, you want to use it more for charge than ally, but the primary focus is not charge still. It's opportunities for you to mitigate ultimates, to save yourself, to be able to tank damage for your Rhine, right? That kind of stuff. Does that make sense? So it's more situational.
Okay.
Than just like using it for charge, but it is more for charge than is your ally. So if you're in the situation, right, where you're like bubbling for charge, right? So say again that like their Rhine fire strikes from spawn, that's something where you want to bubble yourself, not your Rhine.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe your Rhine got stunned if I saw it. Yes, that was a fine bubble. So that's something you want to have bubble for, right? So like right there, if you saw the fire strike,
Yeah, I could have bubbled
something
myself.
that you can. Yes, that's something
Yeah.
you can self bubble, because you know that they're not going to be able to take another engage in that time. But you wouldn't have won a bubble with your Rhine there, because that meant that they could have taken a fast engage for free. Okay. So that's a fine bubble. That's something where you guys are getting engaged on. I mean, ideally, your team should be playing more groups than that, so that your Rhine doesn't get caught out. But
Is it
for your bubble, that was fine. This is something where you don't have that diva because you're running that maze, so you don't have the ability to eat their antis, and the primary reason where they're running it on it here is to be able to anti you. So you're gonna have to keep in mind that that's gonna be their goal, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that should factor into your bubble usage, because you don't have a diva to be able to mitigate that.
Okay. And for team play, you said we were split. Is it that Rhine is too far forward, or we're too far back? I guess.
Both.
Here,
so you can see here where this happens, right? So you're backing, but your Rhine doesn't, right? So you're both backing initially, but he goes back forward and for this swing here.
Should we have engaged with Sino, or should Sino have backed up?
I can't really see the rest of your team positioning behind you. It's not.
I know they're farther back than me. Like,
okay, if they're further back than you, then you need to be where all of your team is able to play grouped at a good angle. Now, this isn't really something that if you have an ultimate that you want to cycle here, so say that you're right here, you have a Graviton built or you have a Shatter built, and you're looking to ult here, this position is a great place to hold the choke for ults. But if you don't have an ultimate and they have ult advantage, then you pretty much are forced to back off of choke, right? And at that point, you're pretty much like playing back, trying to delay the amount of time that it takes for them to be able to come and take point. Right? So like if you have Shadow and you explicitly looking to use Shadow, and that's something that your team should be up looking for the wall to be able to get Shatter or whatever else, right? Okay. But like say that you're up there, right, and you use both of your tank ultimates, so now you maybe you didn't have any ultimates like at all, maybe you have like a beat or something, right? And that's pretty much all you had, right? And they're coming in through their door, and in that case, right, you can hold up, but you want to be able to back off if they get too aggressive, right? So say that you put up a Mei wall, right, and you're looking to wall off and get a kill, right? And again, you only have Lucio beat. You can wall off, and then if you get that wall, then you can engage, right? And then you hold the choke, right? Because now you have advantage. But if you miss the Mei wall, then that's something where you're gonna want to stay grouped, and you're playing it at this point. You're playing it as you're defending with no ultimates, pretty much, right? Which is where, especially if they have ultimates, then you're playing around the ult economy. Okay.
Okay.
So that's something that you could have self-bubbled the Fire Strike there as well.
It's always kind of a habit because I'm so used to Diva that I just don't bubble it because it's usually eats in. I think it's just... And was that a bad bubble to stop the hack, or...?
No, so that was a fine thing. You can bubble this. I mean, bubbling to stop hack is good. So that was fine. That's something where now that the bubble is off, they're going to keep that in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your self-bubble earlier wasn't great when you did decide to use it for charge.
Yeah.
So ideally you would have your self-bubble up, thus that if you bubble here, right, they miss hack, right, and then they follow up with hack and then they shatter or something, then you have your self-bubble to be able to block.
Mm-hmm.
Or now you have your self-bubble that you can step in front of Ryan and take damage. Right, but what that tells you is that when they're looking for that hack there and they have the shatter up, that's what they're looking for, is that hack shatter combo. So you're going to be looking explicitly, like once you saw that hack go off with the once you saw that hack and you bubble that, now you're on the defensive for, you know where their Sombra's located, you know what their Ryan's going to do, so now you save self bubble for that shatter explicitly, and you're expecting that within the next few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an indicator. Yeah, so you can bubble. It's a good one. Okay. Yeah, so that was clean. That's fine. That's a good grab. You had good follow-up.
Do you think my Zarya is too passive? Because sometimes I feel like I'm playing too far back in general. I don't know if it's bad or not.
It's a bit of both. It depends on where the fight is. So, with Zarya, the way that you weave your bubbles, if it isn't optimal, then that doesn't allow you to play passive or aggressive at the right times, right? So what you want to be looking at doing is not necessarily like making your Zarya more aggressive, making your Zarya more passive, but you're going to want to be focusing on fixing your bubble usage to have better timing,
which allows you to be aggressive.
Right, and then you're going to naturally be more aggressive or passive at the right times. So your ideal is not like to have your Zarya be more aggressive or passive unless there's something that super stands out. That's like, oh, you're using your bubbles fine, but you're just like literally always 20 feet behind your Rhine, right? But like your positioning relative to your Rhine depends on your bubbling, ideally, right? So if your bubbling is good, then that will make it much clearer as to when you should be passive or aggressive, right?
Okay.
So I'd say focus on fixing that first, and then once you have that addressed more, to be more accurate with like your ally bubble usage and saving self bubbles and stuff, then that's something where you can approach that from am I being too aggressive or passive when I'm using my bubbles properly, right? So I mean, I get what you're doing there, but like, don't do that in like a.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
They could have gone Widow and
fine
fucked
right here. I wouldn't bubble, right? And you don't bubble. What you would want to do is you do want to bubble for that shatter, right? Once you saw that going down, that's something where
and then
you save
it's just
ally for.
Yeah, but Lucy got in the way. But I guess it still worked out.
So that's something where that was more on your positioning here, right? So you knew what they were doing, you know what they were going to go for, right? But you went ahead too far right here when your Rhine wasn't back up yet from the sleep. So that's more on your positioning rather than your Lucio. If you were positioned a few feet back, then you would have been able to get the bubble off onto the Rhine, right? And even with the flick bubble, it would have been too late. You were just too far. Not necessarily like too far. I mean, a little bit too far forward to the left. So that's something where like you were keeping in mind the point percentage, like all that's fine. They didn't really execute off of the shatter. Like all of that was okay. It wasn't optimal. But it's something where even though it's that close on the point percentage, your focus still needs to be on that ult economy. Right? Because say that you let them get that off and then you guys blow all your ults, right? And then they cap point. Then you're in the position where, sure, you've been able to play for that extra few ticks at the beginning, but that doesn't matter because now they've capped and you've wrecked your ult economy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
We also played Sombra Goats, I think, sometime, and I think I would review that for the team. That'd be good. But I have no, it's Hanamura, but I have no idea when that happened. I'll look on my own VOD. Let's see. Around.
And you're running
1 hour 12 minutes.
Okay. And who are you running on Sombra?
Who's an OP? Because Ark is our Sombra player, but he's not here, so we put OP on him, which is our diva.
Yeah.
I think we do at least. Let me check. Oh, maybe not. I know we run it eventually. There you go.
Okay, so I guess you start off with regular and then you lose first extremely quick.
Yeah, we get rolled.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the same thing with they've been running the consistent Ana goats, so I guess you did swap to Sombra before. So they're running the consistent Ana goats, right? And especially if you're running no diva, your primary usage on the bubbles are going to be for mitigating that anti.
Okay.
So I mean, and that was an okay, like that was a fine bubble there. It's just that you didn't have anything afterwards.
Yeah.
So I think your soft bubble, you could have not used it earlier. That really wouldn't have made a difference as far as the anti. That was just overall, your team has to play differently if you're looking to go into a Sombra Ana and you're letting your Rhine get hacked.
Yeah, I just feel like if I don't bubble him on engages, he's just gonna die before they even get an anti
Yeah, so
off.
that's something where, like, so your ally bubble, like, that was fine with what you when you ally bubbled right there. It's just that your team composition is not built for playing against that, which then dictates how you have to position. You do not, your team is not adjusting your position, right? So you need to be playing around their Sombra hacks and their antis. So you need to be playing angles that prevent that anti from getting off. You need to be, your Rhine needs to be more aware of their Sombra positioning. In general, you guys need to be more aware of the Sombra positioning. Your Brig needs to be better positioned to be able to stun once they try to engage. So rather than going for like a stun engage, unless you're all in position to do it, maybe use stun more passively to be able to stun their Rhine after they get an anti off and he goes for an engage, stuff like that, right? So that just kind of dictates how fast you guys play the fight. And keep in mind that your melee goes through shield.
Yeah.
So you could have meleeed and killed the Rhine.
Yeah, I just kind of forgot about that, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So there's more Zarya stuff. It's pretty much like the rest of it is just going to be more instances of bubble usage and stuff. Your tracking, like, I mean, everyone's mechanic can always improve, but your tracking seems fine.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that I would talk about for remainder of this would be like Sombra goat stuff, but honestly, it's just going to be like something that I mean, even if they watch back the VOD, this is something that needs to be more of a team discussion, especially like with your Sombra player being here.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't think there's much else that we can do for the remainder of this, and you don't play Diva for this scrim.
I don't play Diva like at all anymore, because OP's just a better Diva than me, so.
So I don't think that there's much else to review from this without having more people here for a Sombra discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. Just keeping in mind I mean, we talked about playing into their Sombra and how their goats variant changes how you need to play goats, but as per you guys playing Sombra goats into them, right? yeah, this is more something where it needs to kind of have people be here so that we can have a team discussion and have
Okay.
more of a talk on how that works and what you guys think is the appropriate way to do it and stuff like that. Because otherwise, just kind of me asking you questions and
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily the best way to go about it. So, is there anything else that you had?
No, I think that's it.
Questions or anything else? Okay. So, as per your Zarya, to summarize, I think the main thing that you want to focus on right now is going to be your ally bubble usage. After that, you're going to be wanting to look at a tie between self bubble usage and positioning relative to Ryan. But once again, you fix those bubble usage problems, primarily the ally one, then you can reevaluate your positioning because that's going to change how you position. Okay.
Okay.
So, but make that your primary. So every time that you go into a fight and you're looking to ally, right? Just keep in mind how you want to use that. And then every time that you actually do ally and you have a second, think back and be like, was that a good ally? Right? How could I have made that different?
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Then that's it. So you can just send them